Dáithí, you're welcome back for
Teresa,
analysis of blog 2. Yes.
Thank you very much. And the response to blog 1 has been incredible. And I know that second part of blog 1 has been released this week, and the interactions have been fabulous. I would love if there was more negativity, if there was more insightful CITE, if you will, responses. And people seem to be accepting what we're saying as being the norm. That's not why Teresa, Mary, Hand-Campbell is asking the questions for. You're supposed to be tough and people are supposed to be inquisitors. What we're getting right now are a lot of people accepting, acknowledging. That's not what we're about. AI singularity is the elephant in the room.
We want people to think and start asking questions, start disagreeing with us, and start putting forward their own ideas. So
like you disagree with me.
Yeah, absolutely. So AI singularity, teacher and student roles in classrooms of the future. Okay, this blog reimagines Ó Murchú's 2005 vision for the technology-supported classroom through the lens of AI singularity, proposing a future where teachers and students are co-creators in dynamic, ethically conscious learning spaces. So with constructivism as the underlying pedagogical framework, AI-driven education becomes a collaborative, adaptive, and culturally responsive ecosystem. So I know you love the analogy of the elephant in the room. What does the elephant in the room look like this week, Dáithí, in your conversation on the handshake? Since the handshake, to my mind, is hugely symbolic in that I argue human connectedness and collaboration can never be replaced, but only augmented by AI. So what does that elephant look like? Draw us a picture.
Well, the elephant this week is looking at particularly work I did in 2005, where we envisioned in a multilingual Gaelic-speaking environment, how we could use technology and how the roles of both the right hand and left hand could give a handshake together, so teacher and student could come together and re-envision their roles to bring at that time the Gaelic language to be what we call Gaeilge Bheo, a living Irish language instead of academic. Today, we're talking about 20 years on, heavily in the foss nearly. Now, the right hand and the left hand of student and teacher is coming together, but now it's called the HAINDS, teacher and students of the HAI hands coming together in a, I again repeat, a conscious, ethical, professional way as co-constructors, constructionism, constructing their own learning in an environment that is fluid. So come on, Teresa, go for it this week.
So your 2005 work posited a radical transformation of teacher-student roles in technology-supported environments. With AI singularity, this shift accelerates as human and machine intelligence converge. Now, teacher transition from knowledge transmitters to facilitators, co-navigating a landscape where AI amplifies student agency, adaptive learning, and knowledge networks. So a total walk away from the traditional sense. So what are the real implications of this shift? First, for the human-machine convergence.
Well, again, with the human-machine convergence, again, what we call human AIology or humanology, what it basically means is that where AI is concerned, again, we start. If you think that you are a hammer, then everything is a nail. But we can't look at AI as being a hammer and a nail. The curricula which exists right now have really nothing intrinsically wrong with them, except many of them are based in traditional, very often 18th, 19th century mindsets. But what we're looking about the machine here and the human is a constantly, the only thing that's definite in Earth right now is change. The human is constantly changing. I'm not going to say evolving for the better or the worse. Look around you. But one thing is certain, AI being a coded machine, we call it coded machine for LLM, large language models, or NLP, natural language or language programs. The whole idea is we can use the tool, but we're not just hammers. We are very often soft gloves, pieces of cotton wool. What it means is that change is something that if we engage, enable, empower ourselves and embrace it, we can actually change for the better. Hashtag AI for good, hashtag AI for equity of
So
opportunity.
AI as an amplifier really of human capability.
And as a sense of AI for an equality, equity of opportunity for everyone. It is there and it is possible. We just need to open our minds.
So we really are creating feedback loops where the human insights drive AI learning and conversely AI insights inform human understanding.
From a psychological perspective, the emotional intelligence we have, the creativity we have, the capacity to critically think, the capacity to be that human with unconditional love can be part of the human AIology to work together.
It is a need for a massive leap of faith really on behalf of the teacher. What are the implications for the teacher's role?
Well, the sage on the stage no longer is the sage on the stage. The person who's at the center of the classroom, the traditional model, or even the idea of constructivism is no longer acceptable. The teacher, in his, her, or their own capacity, can acknowledge that within that classroom, there are also teachers, and together they can co-construct, co-design, together to travel, because education, educo, to lead forward, is not just based in assessment models of curricula, it's based in the human being who is neurodiverse, who is a multiple of intelligences, to be able to feel that self-esteem, that self-growth, and be able to do this in a human environment where AI is an amplifier, an enhancer, a tool to make this happen together ethically, professionally, and mindfully and consciously.
But it demands a proficiency on behalf of the teacher in the whole area of AI and the aligned competence it brings. And unless that happens, will it be successful? That's a rhetorical question.
Answer is no. Simple answer, no. We might come back to it, but if the colleges of education do not, and I'm saying this not in a judgmental way, but if they do not embrace the reality of how we call them the pedagogies, the methodologies, the approaches that are available to them with modern teachers, and how to go into a classroom, removing very often themselves from that stage on the stage, then the reality is that they fail. And if you prepare to fail, you fail to prepare, and you therefore fail. And you're failing the reality of 21st century multiliteracies and the curricula that demand we change. Colleges must change mindsets. And remember, we said mindsets must change. And where we were in the first and second blog, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, we're talking options and choices. We have to change this mindset to ensure we prepare teachers for the future, which does not yet exist.
Well, otherwise they block off the oxygen supply to the students. What are the implications for the students of the AI-driven classroom?
Well, again, it's a question of options and choices. I read recently, actually as late as yesterday, that there were students out there in one of the big blogs on LinkedIn that are using AI only, and only AI to deliver their assessments. And in third level institutions, because there's such a dichotomy, some classes allow AI to be used by some professors and some don't. And the students are so confused at all levels of education, and they believe somehow or other that AI will catch you up. You've got plagiarism, and then some allow. So my answer to that is very simple. It's not about the assessment. It's about the methodology of assessment. And we might come back to that again. The reality is that we can serve all masters here to again respect the human within the humanology, but that boils down to the capacity of the person who is at the constructionist side, or sadly the sage on the stage, to realize that, hey, unlike Caesar's wife, you are not as constant as the Northern Star, nor is the methodology, pedagogies, approaches that you are using. There is a demand and a need for change on the side of the student, who can realize he, she, or they can use AI to enhance their own learning, but also to grow in creativity and critical thinking, to use it as a tool to enhance their neurodiversity as well.
And unless the foundations are laid properly by the former sage on the stage and embraced by the students in an ethical way, it may create all sorts of problems for both. But
Yeah, yeah.
in my
And if I may,
opinion,
sorry,
yeah,
if I may just say it there, UNESCO's latest documents on the teacher and student competences in AI are really worth reading by anyone. And the
excellent.
OECD has it, but definitely the latest documents on competences teacher students on UNESCO are worth a read because they deal directly with that.
Unfortunately, a lot of these publications go unnoted and not read by those who have that position of responsibility, you know. But in my opinion, at this point, the key psychological theories relevant to the arguments supporting AI singularity from the perspectives of both the educator and the student need a mention at this point for the benefit of our listeners. And I will be very brief. On behalf of, let's say, looking at the classroom educator perspective, you're talking about constructivism, Piaget, Vygotsky. You're talking about the cognitive load theory by Sweller, where learning is affected by the amount of information working memory can hold at any one time. Reducing extraneous loads enhances learning efficiency, and the AI can move in there, help manage cognitive load by providing tailored resources, etc., etc. You're looking at social learning theory by Bandura. Learning occurs through observing others and modeling behaviors, attitudes, and emotional reactions. AI-powered platforms can create collaborative environments where educators and students learn from each other, promoting social interaction and shared learning experiences. Come to self-determination theory by Daithí and Ryan. People are motivated by the need for competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Fulfilling these needs enhances intrinsic motivation. AI can provide educators with insights into student performance, enabling them to offer personalised support that fosters student autonomy and competence, and thereby enhancing motivation to learn. And finally, you're looking at the TPAC, technological pedagogical content knowledge. So effective teaching requires an understanding of how to integrate technology into pedagogy and subject matter. That, for me, is a very, very important point. Educators need to develop TPAC to effectively utilize AI tools, ensuring they enhance teaching strategies and content delivery while aligning with educational goals. Now, very, very briefly, I'll just give you the headings in terms of student perspective. You're looking at behaviorism, Skinner. Learning is shaped by external stimuli. Reinforcement. Behaviors can be learned through conditioning. Well, AI can provide immediate feedback and reinforcement. That links in with your interest in assessment. Shaping students' behavior and learning outcomes through adaptive learning pathways and gamification. You're looking at cognitive development, Piaget again. Children progress through stages of cognitive development, influencing how they understand and engage with the world. Well, AI can be sensitive to this and provide appropriate challenges and supports to encourage cognitive growth and facilitate mastery of new concepts. Come to Gardner's multiple intelligences. Individuals possess different types of intelligences that influence how they learn and express knowledge. And AI can be sensitive to this and play into the hands of this very fact. Look at the flow theory. Optimal learning occurs when individuals are fully engaged and challenged at the right level, leading to a state of flow. Inter-AI can personalize challenges and tasks and keep students in a flow state, increasing motivation and learning. And then constructivist learning theory. Students construct their own understanding and knowledge through experiences and reflection. That is something that the educator must bear in mind in their CPD and their upskilling, etc. So the application of AI facilitates constructivist learning by allowing students to explore, experiment, and create, thereby enabling them to actively engage in knowledge construction without the fear of making a mistake or making a fool of themselves. What do you think? Does that give enough context for the listener, Dáithí?
I believe it does. And it's amazing, Teresa. If I didn't know better, I'd say, God, you're getting soft on me. I'd say you're beginning to think that AI actually has the right to go handshake with the handshake at this point in time.
Oh, wait till next week. I'll get you again.
but what you're saying, everything you've pointed out, you're proving the very simple point that people some of them have failed to see. AI has been around for over 50 years. It has always been a part of pretty much everything we've done, except it has been accelerated and has been more exposed in a revolutionary way in the last 18 to 24 months in particular. But every one of the theories, the paradigms that you presented, AI is not a hammer and they're not nails. AI is your thing, the handshake. The thing is, though, you can break someone's knuckles or you can handshake them to kill them. It's all down to what we spoke about in the first two blogs. The idea of the sweet shop. There is no harm in going into a sweet shop if you have a sweet tooth and picking the odd sweet which you like. The problem is if you eat too many of them, you get diabetes. So Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, but what you've said, I would say that we need to go beyond constructivism where the teacher is still too central in that classroom to that idea you mentioned of us constructionism, our own learning in a way that allows us with Papert and others to go and see how students can use this tool to, like a Michelangelo. Does one see from the outside what's within the marble, or does one see from within the marble what to cut away to reveal it? Does it really matter unless that human being who's interacting is actually, and you said it, feeling the self-esteem, the self-confidence, the understanding that he, she, or they are a beautiful human being within this flow. And the teacher roles and the student roles that I've suggested in this are ones which engage, enable, empower, but also challenge us to change.
It's a very exciting time, really, for people like me as psychologists with what's happening. I mean, there's a whole plethora of theories and constructions of all kinds to come down the line. Frameworks for learning theory have been offered from several disciplines, such as educational psychology, biology, computer science, etc. But they've rarely been integrated or unified within or across disciplines. Now, in your blog, you say AI-enhanced classrooms called constructivism, where learning emerges from students' interactions with AI in context-rich environments. The model is rooted in Blog T's 1980 constructivist principles. It's augmented by AI capability to model complex concepts in real time. Now, how can this be achieved, Dáithí? Describe students' interaction with AI in context-rich environments, of which will have to obviously be created by the educator who is AI savvy.
Well, if you look behind me right now, you'll see AI for EDU. You see?
Yes.
Right there. One of the projects we're doing in Europe right now is basically one whereby we've created two sets of tools and applications called TeacherMate and Study Buddy. The website is AI for edu.eu. And in this particular case, we've taken specific curricula books in various countries, Sweden in particular, Cyprus and Ireland, the new curriculum in Ireland on climate change and sustainability. And what we've done is taken the documents in the books and also in biology, history, and humanities. We've taken these and put them into an LLM, the large language model. And what we've done is, by doing this in the TeacherMate, the teacher has all the necessary tools to ensure that every child in front of him, her, or them has the capacity to interact with this TeacherMate in the curricula in a way that he, she, or they is able to do. And funny enough, the TeacherMate, through the idea of the lesson providing the information on a personalised, intelligent tutoring system, is allowing that student, empowering that student to bring on the information relevant to what they need to know, want to know, are capable of knowing, their abilities allow them to access. The Study Buddy, which is the student side, then allows them to speak with the LLM, to engage with it, and the LLM will kind of assess from that speed, from the capacity where the student is at, making the pieces in the books relevant. So imagine a student with dyslexia. Yes. Then the child has a 150-page book in biology in front of them, and they're going, how in God's name am I going to know that? But by asking the question, of the study buddy, then it's able to discern, choose the information that's there, make it relevant to the student, read it back to them, or put it in a quiz form, a multimodal form, which is to show pictures, videos, everything, to make it relevant to what they're doing. So in this case, Teresa, Teacher-Made and Study Buddy on AI for EDU is doing all of that in an exploratory way right now. And we, in particularly in Drumcondra Education Centre, because we're the Irish lead in this one, we are so fortunate to provide our schools and our teachers who are there under AI for EDU. And in particular, I'd like to mention St. Thomas's Senior National School in Tallinn, Dublin, who are doing incredible work with Teacher-Made and Study Buddy with students who are so differently abled that the results are staggering.
So universal design for learning in action, isn't it?
UDL out there, and I'm sure Professor Alan Bruce will be up there going, woo, woo.
But none of this is possible with the child working on his or her own without the guide of the handshake of the teacher. Am I right?
Wow. Now we're into the big area, because yesterday on Sky News in England, it was announced for the first time, breaking news, that a school in England where students are paying 30,000 sterling per annum on a private college, that all teachers have now been replaced by AI. And the student has a personalised intelligent tutoring model paradigm where he, she or they only engage with AI on a computer to lead their way through his GCSE. So now Dáithí is going to say, oh my God, the last time I saw that was Spock on Star Trek, when he was there on his home planet as a child, in the little pod on the ground, when all the little Vulcans were looking around wondering. And if you, by the way, anyone out there, YouTube Spock in his private little pod, learning his own planet. And I would say, oh, wow, have we now gone too far? And my answer is
yes.
Yes, but that was on Sky News yesterday.
It's an expensive experiment. I remember once a colleague of mine saying, Teresa, hold on, but your child and everybody else's are the guinea pigs. And when it fails, they'll have to revert and come back. That's an expensive experiment to my mind. Practical applications include project-based learning, where AI tools guide students in solving global issues from climate change to social economic challenges. So there's a hint here in the background the whole time of the 17 SDGs, and number 4 is education. And it's amazing how everything revolves around education and lifelong education, really. With this call, will this call for a rewriting of curricula across the board for all sectors, primary, secondary, higher education, workforce training and lifelong learning, professional and technical fields? What do you think?
I don't think we need to rewrite the curricula. We need to rewrite the manner in which we engage with the curricula. And refocus it. We just need to, what we need to do is, it's like someone getting at our age where our eyesight begins to go a little. You just need to go to wherever it is and get your eyesight checked. With the curricula, taking what we call in the Irish language a súil ella, like TG Carr, our Irish program. We need to take a different way of looking at it, and AI will enable us to take a multi-dimensional perspective of the existing curricula. Of course, the curricula need to change, but it allows us to take that view of what's happening out there, so that again we can enhance teaching and learning on the 21st century, so that it is equitable and available to all. That's the problem, and ethical. But the problem is that we still have the AI bias, because it is a human being who is coding the AI. The AI is not the problem, it's the coding. And that's why we need to, at all times, continue with the AI debate. But don't change the curricula, change how we engage with it. And therefore, by doing that, you then enable the multi-differently able student to engage in his, her, or their way of learning as a human being. Instead of saying, at the end of 13 years in Ireland, you have the Leaving Cert, you have the GCSEs, you have the baccalaureate. Those assessments do not suit all students, because the fish cannot climb the tree and the elephant cannot do what the fish does. We have to open our options, choices. Luke Skywalker, that's there.
You know, we're at an ideal juncture of curriculum revision for space to be made for all of this AI in that instance, aren't we?
Yes, and another approach we're in at the moment called synapses, with
Yes.
Dublin West Education Centre is looking at the future of continuous professional development in a teacher academy. Again, if someone Googles synapses.academies, you will see. And in that, led by the University of Bayreuth in Germany, and particularly what we're doing is we're looking at ways the continuous professional development for teachers, which is imperative because we're constant. The day we stop learning is the day that we die. Let's be honest. Anyone who thinks differently
Lifelong
needs to
learning
get the hell out.
process. Yes.
And this is a way in Synapses that we're also looking at that European project with Dublin West Education Centre, because remember AI for EDU is from Condra, and we're looking in Ireland right now as to how we can actually achieve this. How can we bring the teacher with us? Because that teacher in there is the human being that is the emotional connection. Very often, for some children, sadly, the only sign of humanity or love or connection. And I know that in many cases, many countries, they may feel the opposite has been true in the past. And we acknowledge that, Teresa. But right now, the teacher who's in there for the sheer love of what she or they are doing and who believes in that child can be the conduit, the bridge, the old program, the equalizer, the Robert McCall to equalize the imbalance. In other words, to equalize the handshake.
So you're looking at attachment theory big time there, attachment theory. And if a youngster coming from the most dysfunctional of settings attaches to a significant other who believes in them, it may be enough to get them to break the cycle of dysfunction.
History's proven that. History's proven that.
Absolutely. So what is required from the designers of curricula in order to overhaul curricula appropriately to capitalize on AI and optimizing learning outcomes?
Flexibility, to have the curricula designed in such a way that it's designed for learning.
So personalized learning elements, yeah?
Yes, we see too many curricula designed learning.
Yes.
But they need to be designed for learning with that openness of allowing those options and those choices to be made at all levels. So keep it fluid. But again, the big thing I would say, don't design learning, design for authentic, soulful, meaningful, mindful teaching and learning, and AI can engage, enable, and empower people to follow and to flow, as you said, to go into this flow theory.
Yes. So, I mean, the emphasis really is on digital literacy and critical thinking and ethical use, isn't it?
It is. And again, we come back to the digital education plan in the EU 2021-27. We look at the OECD models. Again, we look at UNESCO. We look at the Irish government models that they brought out and every other government in Europe. These are all there. And in this particular case, again, we used to have European Digital Schools of Europe awards coming out of Dublin West. But somehow or other, the Irish government felt that they didn't want to sponsor this anymore. This was celebrating the journey of achievement with students in Irish schools. But the minister has decided somehow or other, and apologies, Minister, if you're listening, that you would not give a minimal amount of funding, considering that the Romanian government 2 years ago invested 3 million in digital skills upskilling in schools, and Ireland wouldn't give a paltry amount to celebrate. Notice, celebrate the journeys of schools in digital journeys, Digital Schools of Europe Award, and Dublin West was successful in getting the European Commission to give the stamp of the Commission as an award, but the Irish Department of Education and Skills decided, sure.
That's regressive.
That is regressive. We should celebrate the journeys, and AI is part. And again, UNESCO has brought out the competences. We designed the competences for this Digital Schools of Europe Award, and they were highly successful in pilot phase. But sadly, Teresa, somehow or other things seem to become more important. So we're doing a disservice.
My whole thing with education, a nation never rises above the level of respect it has for its educators and its education system and its resourcing of same. So I don't know where Ireland is going, really, if you were to apply that theory. So in an ideal world, what is required from the child in the AI-driven education setting at every stage of her development or his development? Let's take early childhood, 3 to 6. That's a very rudimentary, they're starting out. Capitalizing on the curiosity and exploration, early problem solving, and the foundation of digital literacy. 6 to 9, building on that foundation. building social skills and collaboration, initial critical thinking, and basic ethical awareness begins to enter it then. 9 to 12, enhanced problem solving and creativity, deeper critical thinking and questioning, digital responsibility gaining traction. And then you're on to the 12 to 15-year-olds, complex problem solving and project management, analytical thinking and ethical considerations, independent learning then entering it, independent learning skills. Late secondary then, you're 15 to 18. That's where the interdisciplinary and systems thinking takes hold. Advanced digital and data literacy, ethical and societal impact awareness. Now, if these foundations are laid up to the age of 18, after 18, they're ready to fly. Specialized skills and lifelong learning mindsets, leadership and ethical use of AI, personal resilience and adaptability. Isn't it so important that the educator is aware of each of these discrete and distinct stages of development of the child and play to it and capitalize on it? Because I believe there are windows that you cannot miss, that you must hone in on and capitalize on.
I agree with you.
That thought to the CPD that educators in the system now must commit to, and colleges of education and formation of the few teachers of the future must commit to. Yeah?
I believe a lot of colleges of education, I do believe, and I must say this, are embracing the changes that are coming in. And let's be honest, Teresa, I have a huge problem with going into a supermarket and seeing a child who is 6 months old on a darn screen being entertained by a load of cartoons, because very often that, let's face it, if we create an environment where the child thinks that the only person that's important to them is on a screen that's going around singing baby shark, 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 then all of a sudden, then if everything is baby shark, then everything becomes a little fish. So I think the play aspect of everything, even with AI, play is the central, most important way we learn. Everything that's psychological and academic, we can play together, i.e., we can have Wenger and Lave's community of practice, but a community of practice is a community that plays together. I mean, even in the religions, they would say the community that prays together stays together. But play is something that needs to be there throughout our lifelong learning. And all of these stages are developmental stages that are such an important part of psychology within education. And we cannot overstep any of them. But the one thing parents, and now we're going to mention this, the one thing I would love to say to parents is that the screen is not put it this way, the laptop, the best laptop is your laptop for that child. To not say that when the child is tired of crying, give them a screen and all of a sudden Baby Shark puts them to sleep or something else. You are the most important connection, conscious, ethical, professional, loving. And we know there are exceptions. We're not going there. But you as a parent are the most important connection of that child with humanity. And therefore, HUMAINITY, humanity, but the human can never be replaced by AI. The AI will replace the human who doesn't understand AI, but there are many places in life, creativity, I told you, creativity, critical thinking, love, consciousness, cognizance, but in AI singularity, there are elephants in this room we need to face. But in everything you've said, I won't argue with you at the moment, but I could.
Yeah, but you remind me now of Mary Aiken's book, The Cyber Effect. And on the front of it, she's got a young mother breastfeeding and texting. And you know, that vital time of connecting with the baby's eyes and the baby connecting with the mum, all of that is being missed unless there is an understanding of the importance of the handshake.
Unless there's a conscious decision made by people. And we often say there is time for screen. I know that the minister at the moment again is bringing in a policy to try and have what we call phones. We'll use the simple verb banned in schools, where they put in a huge amount of money is given to every school to put away the phones in the morning. In reality, I would say if we spent that money on educating all students as to the benefits of and the non-benefits of screen time, then I believe that schools would be in a better place to do this, because it's not about, let's face it, throughout history, when you ban something, what happens? Look at prohibition. My God, look at everything. Once you ban something, you create an underground movement. Don't ban, educate, educo.
Educate. Yes, absolutely. But maybe that initiative really is playing to certain sound bites. It's closing the door and the horse is gone in many ways, but educate youngsters to be able to know when to leave the device away rather than becoming dependent on it. So what will the net outcome be if educators fail to upskill and undergo a retraining on altered curricula which are conducive to AI usage? So I'm hitting here at CUSON and at CPD. Should CPD be mandatory in this whole area?
I'm not going to make that decision, but I will say this. Every moment that you're in a classroom, the conscious teacher is constantly looking at CPD. Indeed, I will take Ireland. Yes. How many thousand teachers every year take summer courses and other, like with Laergus, the National Agency for Erasmus programs, go on mobilities, KA1, to enhance their own CPD at a European perspective. And the fact of the matter is simple. There's a lovely song by AC/DC saying, and I'm going to answer your question this way. If we ignore the elephant in the room, then we're on the highway to hell. Dum, dum, highway to hell. Because if we do not acknowledge that we actually do need, and I believe, but this is not a pan-European experience, yeah. But I do know from Ireland, many, the vast majority or significant majority, and indeed the education centres, the 21 education centres throughout Ireland do an incredible job under the Irish Education Act to provide these ongoing daily opportunities for teachers and for all staff and teams within schools to upskill themselves in a continuous way. And we are very honoured and privileged. And I will acknowledge the Department of Education and Skills, the Minister, for the funding that's gone in there. But sure. If we don't have the right continuous professional development, it's like giving a child with diabetes no insulin or not taking right care of them. So we have a choice and an option, a Luke Skywalker and a Darth Vader, the sweet shop again. But the choice is simple. If we do not acknowledge that this elephant in the room is something that we at least need to acknowledge, then we're dead.
Yeah, to my mind, dependence on technology and the risk of digital overload and blind dependence on technology is a real risk unless educators upskill and know what they're at and know the implications and get in there on the design of programs as well, which we'll come to in a few minutes. What are the implications for teachers in AI facilitator roles in the classroom? So what are the implications? What are the implications for them in their planning?
Well, again, AI for EDU. In teachers' planning takes a huge amount of time. People have this concept that teachers go home at 3 o'clock in the day and all they do is twiddle their fingers or their thumbs till the next day. The fact is, the vast majority of teachers go home and they plan the following day. They stay in school on Crow Park hours and they stay in school in so many other opportunities whereby they plan together. What AI has done is, and in particular, we have done this in quite a lot of programs with our colleagues also in Portugal with Interact Ideas and Marco Neves and Paulo Vieira, and with Ireland under 2nd U. What they've done is, and what we've done is created the forums and the platforms into which teachers can go and look at the various curricula and get the AI with specific aims, objectives, learning outcomes, approaches from everything from being place-based learning, which is sustainability in the OECD, right into inquiry-based, right into project-based, as I hear my colleagues in DCU talking about, like Sean Manley and Margaret Heffernan and Yvonne Crotty, that are working closely with us in Synapses, to know that they can actually do the planning so much quicker, faster, more efficient, relative to the curriculum. And then the teachers can sit down and then put the stamp of the students in front of them in that planning process. So planning, much more efficient, much more effective, much faster, but not taking away the human input touch relevant to the specific environment in which you find themselves. I would say in this case, you're talking about a total U-turn here. Planning is now at a stage where you can spend, I say clearly, 90% less time than you did. But that other time is thing where you can put a personalized touch on that individual learning.
So it's offering a framework and then you customize.
That's it.
Absolutely. So to prepare future teachers for implementing personalised learning pathways using AI in the classroom, teacher training colleges and CPD courses will need to adapt their curriculum, training methods and focus areas. What do you believe are the main implications? What are the broader implications then for teacher training colleges? What do you think?
Well, again, yesterday I was reading very clearly in one of the blogs that was in LinkedIn and again on Twitter and the other fora that are out there, even though some would say forums.
Yes.
What I see is that some third level colleges, again, like we said in the beginning, are at a stage where they're so confused. Students are allowed to use X in such a classroom, but not in another lecture. They're allowed to use it here, but not there. And they're allowed to use AI to enhance, but not in other areas. There is a massive confusion there, Teresa, at the moment. And the problem
need to
is
harmonise approaches.
People, again, go back to your UNESCO teacher and student competences. There's nothing wrong with engaging with the AI as long as you do it within those competences. And here's another thing. I wrote up recently with someone, I did an experiment. I asked all students to design an assessment for me and then to answer the assessment with AI. They all did it. And of course, it was all perfect. Why? Because they all had it there. Then I said, I'm not going to assess that AI. You can all assess it peer to peer. Now I want you to write down the prompts that you use to get the answers. And now all of a sudden, whoa, what prompts? Actually, I asked the AI, but did you prompt it? In other words, if I don't ask the right question, I'm not going to get the right answer. Podcast 1 and 2. So by assessing the prompts, we were then able to see how that answer was attained, how they achieved that point. And then now critical analysis and learning about how to ask creatively, critically, the correct question. Now the assessment model changed and now the students were, wow. So, but there is a plethora of research coming on which says the opposite right now. So therefore, Teresa, #AI debate. Let the debate continue because we are far from the end of this game. If this was a game of hurling, girl, we're only in the first half right now.
Oh, I think we're only choosing the team. What are the implications for parents? Now, parents is the first educators of the AI-oriented curriculum. How can upskilled parents assist both student and teacher in anchoring education and using AI as an aid? So let's, when we hear this thing of the parents being the first educators, well, there's a responsibility that comes with it. They just don't drop them at the school. What are the implications?
Well, let's take Ireland again. And again, I want to compliment the Minister on this. We have programs like WebWise that were brought out through the old NCTE and, of course, IDA now, which is the new professional development for teachers. Schools are offering, and I really do mean this in Ireland, a huge amount of opportunities for parents to come to the school to see how this is evolving, transpiring, and working. Now, let's be honest. Once the parent goes outside that gate, you have no control. But the parents have not been ignored. The parents are the primary educators, and teachers are in loco parentis. But the reality is that parents are, because of the reality of life, and I'm not going to get into the idea right now of government saying the place of the constitution of the mother and or of the father or whatever. The fact of the matter is that we're in a situation right now in life whereby very often both parents have to work to survive. And in which case your amount of quality time with the children are less. But sometimes when you come home, you're exhausted, so the screen takes over. But if we do not acknowledge that screen is not a parent, is not the human in the room, then the reality is that can lead to huge damage.
We've seen that. We've seen the downturn of all of that, can't we?
Well, look at some of the crimes that are being committed around the world right now. And some of the reasons given is that students, as they go into teenage years, are so exposed to certain websites and certain screens that they're watching that they think it's normal to do things which are inhumane, unacceptable. But But to them, because they have been acclimatized, notice the word I'm using, because they think it's the norm, there are unacceptable behaviors going on out there. And it's coming up in the court cases that it's because certain screen time has put a veil of acceptability over certain behaviors and actions. Unacceptable. Parents need to keep an eye on this.
I reference Parenting the Screenager by Richard Hogan. I interviewed him on Asking the Hard Questions, What Legacy Are We Leaving Our Young? About 2 years ago. Parenting the Screenager is a good read, and it really, really references all of that. It's off the wall stuff that's going on. But I believe parents attach a certain sophistication to their kids' know-how in tech because they are not as savvy maybe as their own children. And that is the dark alley they wander down and allow their children go down. So my child is very smart. My child is so savvy on tech. But in actual fact, what are they at? So
that's why you've got parental guidance. That's why you've got parental capacity to turn it on. Actually, in a keynote recently, I asked how many people in the room ever turned off the Wi-Fi on their teenage children. And all I saw was this faces of horror in front of me, because if you want World War VII, forget about 3 or 4 or 5, turn off the Wi-Fi in your home. But there are parental controls now, and many of the big companies are offering these, but they need to offer them more. There needs to be more censorship. I'm not going to call it censorship. That's not the word I'm using.
Control.
Parental
guidance.
Engagement and guidance and control through the education like that is being offered in many Irish schools all over for parents. But parents also, that time that might be difficult when you're tired, to go to a school for a night of this exposure is worth its weight in gold, because if you invest wisely now, he who basically sows will reap.
Sure. So just to bring part one of this episode to a conclusion, given packed curricula and time pressure, is the role of cultural mediator realistic or achievable in this global world?
Well, if you give me a classroom pretty much in Ireland where there aren't 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 literally different cultural perspectives with the way that we as a country are evolving, and the same thing throughout Europe, then I believe at this particular moment the teacher, and again this is something going back to the colleges where they do this, needs to be cognizant of the fact that that which was normal even 5, 10 years ago in Ireland, you're now dealing with a huge challenge that very often, Teresa, half the children in your classroom are coming from homes where English is not the first language. Definitely Irish was not. And in the past it was in Ireland, so we can't speak the Irish language. Well, I can tell you one thing now, the amount of languages in the Irish classroom. So as a cultural mediator, and cultural also includes the culture of AI. And in other words, in blog 2, Teresa, to finish this, in blog 2, we look at the 2005 paper I wrote, which was considered to be crazy at that time, 20 years on, nearly, where we're now looking at the new perceived roles within AI singularity for teachers and students and the future of education. And blog 3, by the way, is looking at that globally in education. Whoa, you got to stay tuned in.
Right. But it must be done responsibly and with strategic foresight in mind.
Consciously.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.